Hello, Oilers fans. Welcome to the day after discussion video between the Edmonton Oilers and the Dallas Stars. Last night, the Oilers lost 5-0 to one of the NHL's top teams in a very uninspired effort. The Oilers were keeping it close. Calvin Pickard was playing strong, but then once Dallas got that second goal, the dam broke open and the Oilers decided to just not commit to any kind of defensive structure at all and help the goaltender out a little bit. And top to bottom in the lineup, too. This was not just on Darnell Nurse or Calvin Pickard or, a specific forward. This was on the entire team as a whole. There's going to be lots to talk about in this video today. So if you want to see more of these discussion videos, make sure you're hitting that like button. If you are new to the channel and you want daily Oilers content, I upload daily on here. So make sure you hit subscribe as well. So let's jump into the day after discussion. Our first topic to discuss today is, are the Oilers playoff ready? Well, after last night, I'm a little bit concerned about whether the Oilers actually are playoff ready. I put out a video after the Los Angeles Kings game just a week ago, and I was like, you know what? Edmonton is playoff ready. I thought that was a mature effort from the Oilers group against the LA Kings, a team that was trying to catch them and get to second place in the division, a team that plays a nasty 1-3-1. They are physical. They are hard to play against, and Edmonton played such a good game against the Los Angeles Kings. They didn't give them anything easy. They were committed to the neutral zone and defensive zone in terms of their structure. They didn't try and force anything, and they capitalized on some opportunities. And I thought that it was such a mature game from them against the Kings. Now that they played the Dallas Stars and I saw the way that they just completely crumbled under any kind of pressure, they weren't able to make clean outlet passes out of their zone. They weren't playing strong in the neutral zone to prevent Dallas from attacking off the rush, and then they weren't burying their opportunities. Now, there was some luck involved here. The Oilers hit 3 posts in the first 15 minutes of the game, or 25 minutes of the game. And that plays into it. If Edmonton had scored even just one goal, I feel like the outcome is a little bit different. What was discouraging to me was when Dallas made it 2-0, and the team, you could tell, there was a switch that flipped, and there was just no commitment to defense anymore after that 2-0 goal. The entire group, top to bottom in this lineup, they just gave up. They just went up. I guess that's it. And it was discouraging to watch because I haven't seen an effort like that since probably Jay Woodcroft was still head coach. They've had some rough around the edges games under Kris Knoblauch, but for the most part, even in losses, they still push a little bit. They even against the Toronto Maple Leafs when they got down 5-0, they came out in the third period and they were really pressing the issue. There was a belief there that, hey, maybe we can come back. Against the Dallas Stars, I knew the game was over after the 2-0 goal, and then the way they responded, 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, 4 goals in a period about 5.5 minutes. It was not good to see, and it was very discouraging, honestly, from a fan perspective, because I thought the Edmonton Oilers, I thought they were above this type of effort. We are in April. There is 2 weeks left until the regular season is over, and we are playing in meaningful playoff matchups. And if we're crumbling that easily under the pressure of a game in April against the Dallas Stars, a regular season game that for the most part didn't have a whole lot of matter in terms of where teams are going to be in the standings. The Oilers are pretty locked in a playoff spot, and they're still very strong in that second place in the Pacific. Dallas Stars, they're obviously pushing to win the Central Division, and they are one of the teams, NHL's best teams. And as I mentioned, if this was a measuring stick game, a test for the Oilers, they failed without a doubt. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is Darnell Nurse. So last night, Darnell Nurse had some pretty, some pretty interesting plays, and there was a lot of anger directed towards him on social media. My YouTube video that I made, Twitter, I put out a couple tweets about Darnell Nurse. Now, I don't want to just attack Darnell Nurse because for the most part, since the trade deadline, he has pretty good underlying metrics. He's being undone by a pretty bad PDO and some on-ice luck for the most part. But Darnell Nurse last night made a few plays where I was just like, I don't know about this. This is just, it's unacceptable at this point in the season. So the first thing that Darnell Nurse did, he took an interference penalty. It was a weak call. I agree. If I was Darnell Nurse, I would have been talking to Steve Kazari and been like, hey, I don't agree with this call. I barely even interfered with that guy. And then on the way to the penalty box, Darnell Nurse kept talking and he kept talking, he kept arguing. And then in the box, he kept arguing. Well, then he gets the 10-minute misconduct. And in last night's video, I mentioned at this point in the year, players should know that if you start barking back at the officials, you're going to get a misconduct. We've had coaches kicked out of games this season. We've had players given misconducts. We've had players fined and suspended for actions directed towards referees. And Darnell Nurse, instead of just going to the box and just taking the penalty and just, it's frustrating. I agree. Like, I sympathize with Darnell Nurse. And as an Oilers fan, we've had some pretty ridiculous calls go against us in the last few games. But he put himself out of the game for 12 minutes. He got a 2-minute minor for interference and then a 10-minute misconduct. So he's taking himself out of this game for 12 minutes. And that's a lot of load to put on Desharnais and Ceci and Ekholm and Kulak to kind of pick up the slack a little bit and, play more minutes and tougher minutes without Darnell Nurse being there to help them. Because Darnell Nurse, when he's on his game, he is beneficial. Whether you agree with his style of play or not, that doesn't matter. He eats minutes. He's a workhorse. He is a warrior out there. So he spends his time in the box. He's out after the 12 minutes in the box. And then, so at this point in the game, the Oilers get a power play and they don't convert. Now the second unit is out and Ekholm and Nurse are on the second unit power play. And there were 3 forwards deep as this power play was expiring. One, that should never happen. McLeod and Evander Kane should not have been so far deep. They were all behind the red line too. It wasn't even like they were just kind of like deep in the zone. They were behind Dallas's net. So there was a play that was coming around the boards to Darnell Nurse's right side. And as the penalty is expiring, Darnell Nurse decides to pinch, even though he knows he has 3 forwards deep, and Mattias Ekholm is left on his own. While Dallas comes down, it's a 3-on-1. Johnston comes out of the box. It is now a 4-on-1, and then Dallas scores. And then on Dallas's 4th goal, oh my goodness gracious, Leon Draisaitl threw an absolute ridiculous muffin up the middle. It's intercepted, and then Dallas scores again. And Darnell Nurse, he was flying the zone. He was the last player back on that giveaway. Now, that 4th goal for Dallas, that was on Darnell Nurse. On Leon Draisaitl, 100%. But Darnell Nurse just flying the zone as well, like before there's a guarantee that puck is out and being the last guy back. It's a bad look. Darnell Nurse had one of the worst games I've seen in his entire career. He's been struggling for a couple weeks now just with his overall play. And I'm not sure. I mean, you can't sit Darnell Nurse. Like, what are you going to do? Healthy scratch one of like your top minute-eating defensemen? I don't know. Maybe if I was coach, maybe I'd think about it just to hold players accountable, because we all know imagine if that was like Philip Broberg that made that pinch, if he was in the lineup and Broberg was the one that made that pinch, or Evan Bouchard made that pinch, or whoever, that they're going to be sitting for a long time and not playing for a long time. At least in that specific game, they definitely would have been benched for a little bit. But Darnell Nurse, he was right back out there two minutes later, and it was a disaster of a game from all fronts. But this leads me into my next topic, leadership, and the leadership group specifically. Darnell Nurse, Leon Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Connor McDavid. These are the 4 leaders on the team that the Oilers as an organization and on the ice and the coaching staff, they rely on to provide the leadership on the ice, off the ice, provide the offense. Darnell Nurse, we talked about him. Horrible game, unacceptable. Leon Draisaitl against the St. Louis Blues played terribly. And then last night against the Dallas Stars played terribly. He had that horrible giveaway on his first shift of the game last night, early in the first period at the blue line. It was an unforced error. There's no reason to give that puck up, have that turnover. Resulted in the Dallas 1-0 goal. And then in the second period, again, Leon Draisaitl just throwing the puck up the middle to nobody. No idea where he's trying to get that puck to. It's turned over. Dallas attacks on transition, scores again. Leon Draisaitl has not played good hockey. Draisaitl also took 2 really dumb, bad penalties against the Blues. He didn't take any penalties last night against the Stars, but you can see the frustration. And when Leon Draisaitl is frustrated, he makes it known that he's frustrated. You can see it in his emotions. He's banging his stick around. He goes to the bench. He's not happy. He's yapping around at guys. Now, I don't mind that. It means he cares. He cares about winning. That's a good thing. However, at this point in the season, we need to get away from games like this. It's just unacceptable right now. And Leon Draisaitl, he is relied on to score goals and be a leader on the ice. And he's, hasn't looked good recently for Draisaitl, especially his on-ice play. I know it probably sucks to have the amount of pressure that him and McDavid do in terms of providing offense because the Oilers' depth situation is pretty rough. I will get into it as well with that. But overall, just we need more from the leaders. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins hasn't scored a 5-on-5 goal in 6 weeks, like a month and a half it's been since his last 5-on-5 goal. It's just, I don't know, man. I don't know. We need more from the leaders. I'm not going to pick on Connor McDavid, obviously, here. So when it comes to leadership, I'm more or less going after Nurse, Draisaitl, and Nugent-Hopkins. There's much more to their game, and there's more that we should be expecting as fans from their game. Next thing I want to talk about is Kris Knoblauch and his lineup decisions. So for a little bit, he had been running Adam Henrique with Draisaitl and Foegele, and that line, for the most part, I thought was playing well. You could tell Adam Henrique was starting to get more comfortable. He had a couple goals. Warren Foegele is a good, gritty. He's fast. He gets into the corners and helps things out on the cycle. And then Draisaitl, of course, he's the centerman. He wins the draws, and he's a good passer. He'll find guys in open areas. And for some reason, Kris Knoblauch has gone away from that, and he has Corey Perry up on the second line now, and he put Warren Foegele down with McLeod and Evander Kane. So McLeod and Foegele, I can understand the logic of playing them together because they do play well when they're with Leon Draisaitl. However, McLeod, especially at center, hasn't really been able to, solidify his game at the center position, in my personal opinion. I think Ryan McLeod has played his best hockey when he's flanking Leon Draisaitl on the wing. And just playing the wing in general. Now, this is not a disrespect to Ryan McLeod. Playing center in the NHL is hard, but he is given third-line center duties, and he has Evander Kane with him on his wing. That line should be able to produce a little bit more. They have not been producing. Evander Kane doesn't have a goal in his last 21 games. Ryan McLeod has 1 goal in his last 12 games. Warren Foegele's game is starting to slow down a little bit. And it's just, when it comes to the lineup decisions from Kris Knoblauch, I'm not an NHL head coach, so I can't sit here and be like, well, my opinion is this, and these players should be in the lineup, and I'm right. I would never say that. I have suggestions, and based on analytics and how I watch the games, there are certain pairs or players that I think should be playing together more often than they are. But when it comes to Kris Knoblauch's lineup decisions, he tweaks things and changes things almost just like, I understand trying new things and experimenting, and we're getting close to the playoffs, and he wants to see who's working with who. And if the analytics department is up and running in Edmonton, maybe they're also taking a look at that. But there's enough data right now, at least public data, that shows certain players that work well together, certain players that do not work well together. And, and again, this is not a disrespect to Corey Perry, but having him in the top 6, probably not your best option. And Adam Henrique, optimally, in a perfect world, he is playing third-line center, not Ryan McLeod. But Adam Henrique was struggling so much in that third-line center position at just being able to generate any kind of offense. He was moved up to play with Leon Draisaitl a little bit. I didn't disagree with that, but now we're getting to a point where basically the other 9 forwards that aren't named Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Connor McDavid, and Zach Hyman, they are struggling to generate anything. The Oilers as a team are struggling to generate a whole lot unless it's coming from Ekholm or Bouchard or McDavid and Hyman. There's not a whole lot of scoring and production coming through from anyone in this lineup right now. And we need more. And Kris Knoblauch, we got to figure this out. I would like to see Troy Stecher get another game or two, and optimally, I would like to see Troy Stecher play pretty regularly. Darnay's game has started to slow down. Cody Ceci still has his moments, although Ceci has actually looked much better in the last couple of weeks. But again, Troy Stecher, I like his game. I want to see more of him. And for Kris Knoblauch, I hope we can figure this out sooner rather than later here. And then the next thing I want to talk about is trusting youth. We saw last night, the youth on the Dallas Stars absolutely feast on the Edmonton Oilers. They have Logan Stankoven, they have Wyatt Johnston, they have Thomas Harley. They have these guys that are making a massive impact for the Dallas Stars. They are scoring goals, they are producing points, and they are given a lot of minutes and a lot of rope to be creative and help the team win. The Edmonton Oilers don't have any major draft picks from Ken Holland in the lineup right now. None. Absolutely zilch. Dylan Holloway is back in the AHL. Raph Lavoie is still down there, and I don't think that was a Holland pick either. But, Holloway, Philip Broberg's down in the AHL, down in Bakersfield. I like there's no impact youth from Ken Holland that he's drafted or brought in, and the players that I think should be given more of an opportunity and played more at the NHL level aren't getting that opportunity. And I don't know why the Oilers organization seems to struggle so much with youth. At the trade deadline, they needed to get a little bit younger, a little bit faster, and they needed scoring help, and they got a little bit older, a little bit slower. And you can argue there is scoring help. Henrique and Carrick can put the puck in the net, especially Henrique. He's over 20 goals on the season now, but we need a shooter. We need a player with speed. Adam Henrique doesn't have a lot of speed. Corey Perry has zero speed. Evander Kane doesn't have speed anymore. Sam Carrick, he's tenacious, but he's not like a fast, he's not going to dangle, and he's not supposed to. Sam Carrick, that's not his job. If Edmonton traded for Sam Carrick hoping like, oh yeah, he'll provide depth scoring, that's not good. There's other players that you can do that. If you want scoring, go after goal scorers. And when it comes to trusting youth, when we did have youth on this team, Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway specifically, they weren't really put in major positions to succeed. Under Jay Woodcroft, Dylan Holloway had a few opportunities in the top six with Draisaitl and McDavid, but if one mistake was made, boom, back down to the fourth line, or he'd just be benched. Dylan Holloway was getting used to playing 7 or 8 minutes a night on the fourth line when he was up here. So I don't mind that he's in the AHL playing 20 to 22 minutes a night the way he should be, but I don't see the reason why he can't be at the NHL level also doing that, because if you want kids to develop and play at the NHL level, you have to play them. That's just how it is. And the Oilers, they continuously favor older, slower players that they're hit and miss. They're hot and cold. And, when I look at a team like the Dallas Stars last night, they are just so far ahead in terms of player development, youth production, and contributions. And the Edmonton Oilers, it could be rough once the playoffs start. I'm not going to lie. It could be very rough. So those were my main talking points. Now, a couple other things I did want to mention. I want to show you guys something here. So I'm going to go to this screen. I'm going to show you what the Oilers' record is against playoff teams and non-playoff teams. So the Edmonton Oilers versus top 5 NHL teams in the NHL this season. They are 4-6-1. Versus teams ranked 6 to 10th, they are 3-3-2. Teams ranked 11 to 15th, 7-6-1. Teams ranked 16th to 27th, 21-6-1, and bottom 5 teams 10-2. The Edmonton Oilers against top 5 teams in the NHL, teams ranked 6th to 10th and 11th to 15th. So basically, the Edmonton Oilers against playoff teams, they are under 500 against those teams. They are an under 500 team against playoff teams, and their record against bottom teams, that's good, but those are the teams that you should be winning. So that's a good thing. I'm not saying that that's bad, but what I'm concerned about is heading into the playoffs, especially, if you have to get through Vancouver or Dallas or Winnipeg or Colorado or Vegas or Vancouver, can Edmonton do it? Do they have what it takes to get over those teams? Can they beat those teams in the Western Conference? I'm concerned that they can't, just based on those stats. Now, I'd have to look more into the deeper analytics, but I did just want to show all of you that just as a, it's not exactly a fun fact, but next thing here is just up next. Look ahead. The Oilers play the Colorado Avalanche tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I am going to have a pregame report up tomorrow morning for that game, and I expect the Oilers to have a much better effort, and I expect them to play much stronger. And the game tomorrow against Colorado will tell me where this team is at in terms of their preparedness for the playoffs. If they come out and they get absolutely destroyed by the Colorado Avalanche after being embarrassed by the Dallas Stars, I will know that the Oilers in the playoffs are probably not a team that I would put money on to win the Stanley Cup, and I would be very concerned about their ability to even get out of the first round. However, if the Oilers come back and their response is to play structured, disciplined hockey, play a mature game in all 3 zones, commit to defense and help their goaltender out, and not force things, and then also take advantage of opportunities and score a few goals and find a way to win a game against Colorado, then I will feel much better. I will consider this game against the Dallas Stars an outlier until the team proves to me otherwise. The Colorado Avalanche tomorrow night are going to show and tell us a whole lot about this Oilers team, and I really hope it is positive and not negative, because the Oilers have been fairly negative in the last couple of weeks here, so let's hope they can get back on track. That's pretty much it for my day after discussion. If you like these videos, as I mentioned before, make sure you hit like. I'm still tweaking the whole graphic setup here. I have the title above, topics on the right. Today I added the some analytics for the game last night against the Dallas Stars, just in purple below my webcam. I had expected goals for, Corsi 4, high danger Corsi 4, and scoring chances for, percentage for the Oilers, of course. Just extra stats. People that tune in, they can see how Edmonton fared, in the whole game. I am planning on doing a little bit different things with the graphics, especially once we get into the playoffs. I have some really cool ideas that I'm excited to share with you. But for now, this screen and these graphics, this is a work in progress, something that I'm trying to streamline and make sure that when people tune in, they're pretty aware of, what is going on the channel. It looks like a lot. Like if someone were to just tune in like right now and having never seen me, it does look like a lot. So I'll try and make things look a little bit more streamlined moving forward. As always, make sure you leave all constructive feedback in the comment section below. Let me know what your thoughts about the game were and the state of the Oilers in general in the comments as well. I read everything. I love interacting with the community. You are all the best. I would not be able to make these videos without you. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, make sure you hit subscribe, and make sure you tell someone that you love them. I'll see you tomorrow in the pregame report. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.